Welcome back to Bitcoin Season 2. I'm Charlie Spears with Block Space Media. Today, we've got Gabriel Shipton, film producer and family of Wikileaks founder Julian Assange. I've also got a recurring guest on the show, Brian Locklin with Ordinalsbot, who's helping them work on Project Spartacus. If you're not familiar, we will talk about it. We are putting the Afghan War Logs on Bitcoin. Before we get started, I want to shout out our sponsor, Arch Network, and I want to welcome all the new CoinDesk listeners. As for the title of the show, Bitcoin Season 2, we are kind of figuring it as we go. It's all of the new stuff happening on Bitcoin, whether it be Ordinals to deep Bitcoin technical discussion to high-level cultural conversation, Ordinals, Layer 2s, the new topics on the oldest blockchain. I like to feature new faces in the Bitcoin discourse landscape. Okay, so I've got Brian Bruffstar Locklin here and Gabriel Shipton. Welcome to Bitcoin Season 2, guys.
Hey, Charlie, good to be here.
Yeah, good to be with you.
And we are recording on 3 different continents. You've got Bruffstar, I'm going to say Bruff for simplicity, Bruff in Switzerland and Gabriel in Australia, which means we found a very narrow window in which to have this conversation. But I want to invite Gabriel, walk me through what Project Spartacus is. Like, what's the purpose of this and what are we actually doing?
Well, I'm a filmmaker, a storyteller. That's my background. And I guess what really attracted me to Project Spartacus was these elements that involve Julian's story. How do we engage a community and get people involved in a different way and an interesting way, and bringing in the Bitcoin blockchain as well in those elements. So Project Spartacus to me is an invitation to people to stand with Julian, to publish the exact same information that Julian was persecuted for 14 years. He had his freedom taken away from him for 14 years. He spent 7 years in a small embassy inside London, and then 5 years in a maximum security prison for publishing this information. And so we're inviting people or Project Spartacus is inviting people to stand with Julian and publish the exact same information that he was imprisoned for. But also it has an archiving element to it. You're archiving this incredibly important data set of the Afghan War. These diaries are essentially the perspective of the conqueror, of the US Army in Afghanistan. So archiving that to the Bitcoin blockchain, so it's there forever, it's not changeable, and it can be accessed by everyone.
And one of the interesting things is that you started this project prior to Julian being getting released from custody, and I believe that was in last summer, right? And so, but because of technical challenges, the project had to be paused, and you guys have resurrected it, and so the project continues even though Julian is now out in the comparatively free world. Can you talk to me about like this? Because I feel that almost like it's kind of interesting evolution of the project.
Yeah, well, it was always an incredibly ambitious undertaking. It sort of was very early in the Ordinals. I guess the life of Ordinals, the project, and it was always very ambitious. And so, yeah, it did meet some technical challenges. And I mean, it's amazing that Julian is actually free. Sometimes I still can't believe it. We fought for so long to get him out of prison. But I think this project still stands on its own in that sense. It's still a way for Bitcoiners or even activists who believe in what Julian did to really, participate and stand with Julian and give Julian, I guess, a form of protection, because even though he's released, he did plead guilty to essentially what is the full chain of investigative journalism, communicating with a source, publishing classified information, which is the key part of Spartacus, and possessing classified information. So even though he is free, he is very much muzzled in a way by this plea deal. He can, if he were to publish more classified information, more leaks, then the plea deal actually says that all bets are off, and that these charges could be leveraged against him. So this is still a way that people can stand with Julian and say, this is very unfair treatment of him, and it actually endangers all of humanity, our right to know what our governments do in our name, our right to know what they're doing with our tax dollars. This plea agreement threatens those rights. But just going back to the evolution of the project, Ordinalsbot is now, Bruff's doing worked on the back end, and the project's working seamlessly now. And so having the premier developer group of Ordinals working on the back end of this project has made it super reliable, and looking forward to watching people inscribe these war logs.
Yeah, I'll toss a question to you, Bruff, which is like, because this was a project which started very early on in Ordinals, and I think maybe the average user today says, "Oh, well, it's Ordinals are JPEGs that I collect, and they just kind of magically work." But this is not the case, and there's a lot of technical lift that you guys and other people across the ecosystem have done. Can you talk to me about why Ordinalsbot kind of came in and how you solved some of these previous engineering challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was 2023, right? I remember watching Stella, which is Julian's wife, at the Bitcoin conference in Amsterdam, launching this project. And I think it was, at the time, actually a bunch of anonymous Bitcoiners who actually started it and got in touch and kind of launched it. And what they did was essentially they took there's 76,000 plus logs in the Afghan War leak, which is what they're individual little snippets of time, essentially, like explaining what happened at that time. And what they did in a cool way was they turned it into almost like a collectible, which is all consistent design. But the text, the most important part, is like front and center. It's right there. You can see it. So I really just love that concept. And obviously, I think it's the best use case for Ordinals, right? Because it's the most government resistant, uncensorable data solution that's ever existed, basically. And this is the best solution for it. And it really tunes to the movement. It's in tune with the movement as well. So I was super pumped to, get a DM to say, "Hey, do you guys want to be involved?" I was like, "Yes, we're all in." But yeah, these are not JPEGs. This is like a lot of data. 76,000 JSONs, right? So it's like it is a lot of data to inscribe on Bitcoin. And the cool thing about this project is by making it a collectible, we're essentially crowdsourcing the inscription costs, right? So using our tech, we provide the files, and then we offload the minting cost to the minter, to the person who's joining the movement, right? So that's just a way of us really making it economical and making it really easy to do, and people can choose to join the movement. When we got on board, we looked at the art files, and they were SVG, but they weren't resizable. So I reworked all the artwork as well into HTML recursive collectibles, which are completely resizable. They take any of the records, because they vary. The war records vary, and they could be 1 word, they could be 500 words. So the collectible itself has to be able to handle that. And I think it's a really cool when you see them all individually or collectively. The words are, if it's 1 word, it's large. And if it's many, many words, it's bundled into columns. So I had to rebuild that with HTML, and the result is really cool. And it means the file size is much smaller as well. So it's actually less cost to inscribe as well for the end user, right? And I'm just looking forward to getting it live again, people collecting them.
Let me tell you about one of the most slept on opportunities in crypto. Arch is building fast, composable DeFi apps on Bitcoin. Arch apps tap into the OG blockchain with by far the most liquidity and best brand in crypto. I've known the team for over a year. The tech they're building is solid, and they are racing towards mainnet. There's dexes like Saturn, meme coins on funkybit.fun, instant loans on Cha-Ching, and so much more. Plus, they're rewarding testnet users, so join me in trying out Arch while it's still early. You touched on an interesting point, which is that the actual funding of putting these on the uncensorable platform of Bitcoin actually is an interesting model. And I'll ask you, Gabriel, because you have a long history of trying to figure out how to activate people to care about things like privacy and freedom, and trying to use media and different ways to engage those people. And this is an interesting model because the user directly participates financially in the permanent, and making that information permanent. What are your thoughts? Like, does Bitcoin, change or maybe offer some opportunities for people who want to preserve information? I mean, I'm curious your thoughts on like just this model in general and how it might change other freedom advocates.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I've thought a lot about, I guess, Bitcoin being the largest network. It's uncensorable. It's distributed through many, many thousands of nodes all around the world. I think to me, for publishing, it's incredibly attractive. If I was a journalist, or if I was somebody who wanted to publish my material, why not publish it? Why not publish it on Bitcoin, where it will never ever be fucked with. No one's ever going to go back and scrub anything out of it, or ever be able to change it. So I think, to me, there's some really interesting aspects around that for just not just publishing these archives, but also for these independent journalists out there who want to publish the material and know that it's going to be up there, know that they're not relying on X platform or Substack or AWS to host their material. So I think that's really interesting. And also the payment, you've got the payment rails there, which WikiLeaks showed could not be disrupted by even the most powerful actors on the planet. WikiLeaks back in 2011 got debanked totally. A lot of people talk about debanking these days, but it was a proper debanking back then. They had their PayPal shut down, MasterCard, Visa, all shut down. Julian's personal bank accounts were all closed. And I think PayPal to this day kept over $100,000 of WikiLeaks donations. And that's when they turned to Bitcoin and started using Bitcoin as their operating currency, and were able to continue to publish. We're able to keep operating using those uncensorable payment rails. So these two elements together, I think, are really, to me, someone who speaks to a lot of journalists, whistleblowers, are really exciting. And then you've got the elements of AI, which are coming into play now as well, where all this information and all these sources that the AI is referencing, if they were referencing the Bitcoin blockchain with data that was on the blockchain, data that you knew couldn't be changed, I think that's a really interesting aspect to it as well. But people who have followed Julian's work, who have followed WikiLeaks, who have accessed the WikiLeaks database, know that the website comes under attack. It comes up, the servers go up, they come down. There have been times when the Afghan War Logs have not been available for everyone. So this is an opportunity for those people to really come and support this project individually, and like Russ said, you're crowdsourcing this archiving. So it's an opportunity for them to come forward and inscribe this information so it's there forever. And this is incredibly important information. I don't know, it was some of these are real people in these war logs. They talk about the deaths of civilians. The longest log is about a soldier who went AWOL, Bo Bergdahl, the search for him. And his story is really, really interesting. I mean, it is the longest log in the collection, but if you read up on him, it talks about how he was having trouble obeying his commanders, and sent a message to his dad the night before he went missing, saying, Dad, what do I do? And his dad wrote back to him saying, do what you think's best. And that's when he just left the base and went AWOL. And so his story is really interesting. And there's all these personal human stories that are part of this collection as well, which I think is really important in getting them inscribed and living forever on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, and I'll throw a question to you, Bruff, which is, you and I have talked about like Bitcoin as a publishing medium, as a collector art platform. Ordinals open up many dimensions for Bitcoin to now look a little bit different and invite new people to come and do stuff on it. And this is a little bit different than the, I would say, more market-driven Ordinals narrative over the past 2 years. And I just kind of invite you, what are your thoughts on how this type of use of Bitcoin differentiates from the other world of Ordinals, which is mainly market and secondary market speculation driven?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously completely different from that. It's got a core message it wants to bring, and it's the history involved in it is incredible, right? Not only Julian's, but the people and characters in this and these logs, right? This is real. This is real stuff. Right? This is not funny JPEGs. These are real people. So it's completely different in that respect. But I think it's a fantastic use case for Ordinals and Bitcoin, and hopefully it kicks off a meta of people understanding these use cases and okay, that's really cool. I like the crowdsourcing component there. I've got a data set. Can we do something similar? And that's my hope, that other people see the benefit of that. But there's many different metas playing out over the last year that I've seen in Ordinals. You have your speculative, digital collectible market, but we are also working with some really cool art projects as well. We're putting a George Braque painting on Bitcoin, and that's just pure historical reasons, right? Just to have it there. And you look at the Library of Alexandria that burned down, how much knowledge was lost there? Who knows? So the more stuff, the more knowledge and the more amazing things you can back up on Bitcoin, it'll be there long after we're gone. And the case of Project Spartacus, long after we're gone and Julian's gone and everybody that's ever been mentioned, those logs are gone. That'll still be there and people can still see it and read it and learn about it. It's never going anywhere, no matter what. This meteorite that's coming, that can hit us all day long, and this thing will still be there. So that's what I'm passionate about,
Yeah, it's interesting because Bitcoin is not cheap to put information on, and there's a limited amount of space that Bitcoin can you can put information on Bitcoin. It's not very much, so you have to be very strategic, as you said, compressing the files. But it is interesting because you pay one time, and now you don't have to worry about server hosting costs and uptime. So I guess to Gabriel, because you and your family have been huge advocates of censorship-resistant platforms and just freedom of the press and information. What are your thoughts on the general landscape of censorship-resistant platforms, even outside of Bitcoin? I invite you to share your real thoughts and opinions here.
Well, I mean, there really aren't. I think there's a handful of censorship-resistant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even the ones that claim to be free speech platforms, aren't really free speech platforms. I mean, I think protocol-based, things like Nostr, that's very interesting, and I would say probably one of the only ones that is really interesting from a free speech or from a platform perspective. Most of everything else is very, very, even X or, they're all very fraught and difficult, when it comes to speech. I think there's in Julian's campaign, a lot of the time we would just do live events and invite people to live events, and we did hundreds and hundreds of live events all around the world because you can't be censored in a live event. You can invite people there, and you can say whatever you like, and you can talk to them directly without any intermediary, without any anything in between you and them, and that is ultimately one of the limited ways that you can communicate with people, directly without anything in between you. And I think the Bitcoin blockchain offers that sort of similar connection, direct connection to people without going through, a server or a corporation. All these platforms are all owned by a corporation which is domiciled somewhere, which has to abide by the laws of some government, has to have licenses, that they have to adhere to. So there's always ways to come after these platforms to get them to censor your speech, and we saw that. Through the Twitter files, and through Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying, "Oh, we were pressured by the FBI." So we know the techniques that are used to shut down speech on all these platforms, and we know that the Bitcoin blockchain is totally resistant to that, and it has proved that it is resistant to that. So I think Bitcoin is one, but Nostr also is one of these these protocol-based platforms that is censorship resistant. It's not like a techno-feudal platform like these other ones are. Like X is sort of, you come on there, you're contributing all your information, you're contributing all your data, you're bringing people to their platform using your ideas, your creations are all on this platform. You're bringing people to the platform, and then all of a sudden the sort of feudal overlord decides, oh, I'm going to charge everybody $6 to stay on this platform, and you're like, well, hang on, these are all my followers. This is all my data that I've given you, and so you're just at the mercy of these sort of feudal platform overlords. And I think if you have something like Nostr, something like Bitcoin, where people know that sort of interference is not going to happen, and that they can have the freedom to develop their ideas without some overlord coming down and saying, you've got to give me half of whatever you make, or I'm going to kick you off my platform. I think those are the really interesting places for creators, for developers to work in now.
I would invite both of you to reflect on the past couple years in Bitcoin and Bitcoin kind of adjacent ecosystems, on some like wins for free speech, privacy, and like freedom advocates, and perhaps some failures for people who advocate for those. I'm curious because in the Bitcoin world, we had Ross recently go free. Now he's not necessarily in the same kind of category, but it does happen parallel to Julian's release from custody. But I invite both of you guys to kind of reflect on some of the things which we should be celebrating and some things which we should be sad about happening.
I can take it a little bit from the Ordinals side. I think that Ordinals is still a very nascent ecosystem. We're all very passionate about what it means for Bitcoin and what we're bringing to the table. But I think it's very nascent, and it's been very speculative, right? There's been a lot of communities built there and amazing things happening, but there's not been a movement yet like Project Spartacus with a real world like history and message behind it. So I think that up until now, we've been in build mode, right? We've been building this ecosystem, doing all the tooling and the wallet support and everything. So there's not been like space for someone to come with a real message. until now with Project Spartacus, and I think this is perfect timing when everyone knows what Ordinals is basically now. So it's a much more easier entry point, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the post launch, right? To see now when we mint out everything and it's now there in the world. What does that mean? I think you'll find there'll be more like similar projects or similar ideas and mentality coming to Bitcoin. And that's not to say the last 2 years haven't had amazing things happen on Bitcoin. There's been some really fun, cool movements and events and community-driven things that have happened, and immaculate vibes in the ordinal space. But I think in terms of real-world movement, this is the one that will probably put a spotlight on Bitcoin as a data storage. Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Gabriel?
Yeah, I have to echo Ruff there that, I think Project Spartacus, it is, when it mints out and when this archive is on the Bitcoin blockchain, I think that's really going to bring a spotlight onto what is possible, and that it will kick off really, I think, more and more development in that space. You say there's limited space on the Bitcoin blockchain, but I think there will be lots of refinement and lots of ways of thinking about how to get more data more efficiently onto the Bitcoin blockchain, particularly as it's so censorship resistant just naturally. But to the more of the areas that I work in, the more of the advocacy areas. You mentioned Ross getting free and Julian getting free, and I think that's really speaks to coming of age of the Bitcoin community. In a way, they've realized their power and realized that how they can wield that power in the political system. And so I think that is very, very exciting to me. I've been advocating with we've been advocating, since 2019, trying to get Bitcoiners to, realize that, that how much power they actually have and how much they can use that power to get what they actually want. For a very long time, and I guess it's still very much the case, is that a lot of Bitcoiners sort of check out of the system, right? Like they're like, oh, well, I've got Bitcoin, that's my backup. I'm not going to get myself involved in the system. I'm just going to sit on my big pile of Bitcoin, and that's my only effort into having any influence or power over the system, is using Bitcoin to sort of check out. And I think that's really, I've found in advocacy for Julian's freedom that, that was a big problem. Huge people in the Bitcoin world didn't see the point of engaging politically or using their power to get these outcomes, like Ross getting free or Julian getting free, or these different aspects like a Bitcoin reserve or other aspects. So I think there's been this coming of age now, and this success that's been achieved, everyone will see that, and they can, and a lot of these people who have sort of checked out of the system, I think, will come around and start, using their power, using the influence that they have to make a difference. But I think that always was a problem for us, is that a lot of people, thought that just using Bitcoin was enough, and that would be all that they had to do to change the world. But I don't think it is. And now we've got these great successes, and we just got to keep the ball rolling.
Hi, this is Charlie, and we at Blockspace are putting on Op Next, a technical scaling conference for Bitcoin. It's coming up here very soon, April 11th and 12th at the Strategy, formerly MicroStrategy HQ in Tysons, Virginia.
Join us on April 11th and 12th for talks and presentations from the likes of Jameson Lopp, Jeremy Rubin, James O'Byrne, John Attack, and many more on the most pressing questions for Bitcoin's future and technical development. Tickets go up in price on April 1st. We're going fast. Get them while they're cheap, and we hope to see y'all there in April.
Go to opnext.dev, that's opnext.dev, to get tickets and learn more. So where does Project Spartacus go from here? I'm looking at it. You've got looks like a few thousand out of 70 some odd thousand pieces to inscribe. What does it look like in 2025? And I guess, is there a big like congratulations that pops up when they're on the site when they're all inscribed? Or what does it what does it look like?
We just want to make sure it works first and foremost. Let's get the thing rolling and make sure we can support the demand and it doesn't go down again, because we don't ever want this to happen again. We want this to complete, and then for the sake of the movement, and we'll do everything in our power to make sure it doesn't go down again. And yeah, where it ends up, man, I think when this thing is inscribed, I think let's see one of the war records in the some MoMA or the Smithsonian or some, I don't know. Let's put it everywhere. Let's print them out and put them everywhere. Like it's it should be common. Everyone in the world should know what these things look like, basically. So that's the goal.
Yeah, well, this is the first. The Afghan War Logs were the first release from the Chelsea Manning leaks. So there were the Afghan War Diaries, the Iraq War Logs, Guantanamo Bay detainee files showing, that the miners were tortured in Guantanamo. And then there's the cable set, which is probably, I guess, the most incredible data set of all of WikiLeaks, the 250,000 diplomatic cables from the US State Department, from all their embassies all around the world. And I think, if and when we get this minted out, if those other data sets can wind up on the Bitcoin blockchain and be there forever, then that would be an incredible library of history for people to access, in 100 years into the future, knowing that it's not changed, knowing that they can trust the source, and knowing that it will never be scrubbed from the internet. But I believe that if this project mints out and it brings the attention, I think the mainstream attention that I think it will, when it mints out, I think that will be, very, very, very significant. Having those eyeballs, having people look at the Bitcoin blockchain and see it not just as a store of value, but as something that they can bring into their institutions and use. For other things other than storing value or sending value from one place to another.
All right, there you have it. ProjectSpartacus.xyz, I believe, is the website. Is there any other information if somebody listened to this and they want to go inscribe? What do they need to know? I'll throw it to you, Bruff.
Yeah, I mean, if it's your first time, touching the Bitcoin ecosystem, touching Ordinals, then I would recommend downloading Xverse Wallet. They're good friends of ours at Trio. So download Xverse. It's very similar to MetaMask if you've used that on Ethereum. It's a browser extension. Then when you go to ProjectSpartacus.xyz, you can literally connect, just like you can do with a MetaMask wallet. Xverse pops up, you sign in, click mint, you click sign, boom, you're off to the races. You might need to top up with some Bitcoin first, actually. That might help, obviously. But yeah, it's essentially like any other kind of collection minting process, basically. So it's fairly intuitive if you've done that before. Great.
Well, I'll see you guys at 72,000 Afghan War Log pieces inscribed. Hopefully ASAP. Everybody get over there. I'll see you all on chain.